back with another episode of Galaxy Tenants. The following conversation with Tim Carbone will be presented in two parts. Part 1 features music that Tim has produced. First, you'll hear In the Dark by the Sweet Lillies, then you'll hear 9 to 5 by 10th Mountain Division. Stay tuned for Part 2.
I'm here with my friend Tim Carbone from Railroad Earth. How's life, Tim?
I'm doing good, Jay. Just trying to keep swimming forward. I have it. I'm lucky in that it took a long time, and I was worried it wasn't going to happen, but I did get unemployment towards the end of August. So it's not a full recovery of money by any means, but half is better than none. And my wife is working, but she's a frontline worker, works in a hospital. So it was pretty good through, July and August. Things calmed down in the hospital, but everybody's all basically, they're in freak out mode again now. It's starting to get bad here in Pennsylvania.
Yeah, the hospitals are overloaded here, and they're starting to open the field hospitals pretty much here and then out west. And I got to tell you, man, I have been feeling quite a bit of anger and have been outputting on Facebook through some of my posts while I'm watching people go on vacation and travel around the country and do these things that we're being asked not to do by the people who are having to sacrifice the most on the front line. And it's been very, very frustrating for me.
Yeah. Well, pretty much anybody that's got a brain is looking at that kind of behavior and going like, what are you doing? I don't know. We'll just see how it all goes. The vaccine coming, we'll see, a lot of that's going to rely on how many people actually take the vaccine. So
right.
I'm going to keep my fingers crossed. I'm trying to remain positive. I think it's not to get too heavy into politics, but it's just good that we're going to have a new president, and let's see see how that can work.
Can you imagine how we would be feeling right now if that situation weren't the case, and what we would feel like in this moment? I can't even fathom.
I'm still in the process of working through trying to get my dual Italian citizenship, and so basically, if the election had gone the other way, I'd be going full guns and hitting the road.
Yeah.
So for one thing, for a creative, like for an artist, for a musician, the environment here, even without Trump being reelected, is there's half the population thinks this is a hoax, and they're not willing to help with the situation. So
not half the population, that's a daunting figure. And I have felt that way too. And then I was thinking also, like, half of the people voted for Trump. But when
half
you look
of the
at
electorate.
Correct. Right. And I feel that way about, I think that's the case too when we look at the people who believe that there's some sort of fraud with the election. I don't know that half of them actually believes that. I would be hard pressed to swallow that pill.
Well, so the only thing you could say is, let's say that the 150 or so million people that actually voted is half the population, right?
Right.
So 25% of the population believes that it was a fraud. 25% doesn't believe, and the other half doesn't give a fuck.
I take comfort in that being a lower figure than the 50% number that I had initially had in my mind.
But then again, half the people just don't care. So there was that.
That's always been the case. That's rough.
Yeah. So we can only take care of what we can do. And, I think we're on the right page.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I've known you for the better part of a decade, and I've been lucky enough to call you a friend. You're a wonderful person. You're somebody I respect deeply. And I realize I don't know much about how you came up in this world. I don't know much about your childhood. I don't know much about the early years of Railroad Earth. So I would start by saying, can you give me a little bit of a perspective of what your life was like growing up?
Sure. I'm actually writing a book right now, so this will be in more, people if they're at all interested. I have no expectations, but I'm kind of writing about this very stuff in a sort of I'm trying to decide whether it's going to be linear or I'm just going to bounce around, and probably it's going to be a mix of both. But yeah, I was born on. I'm a native New Yorker. I was born on Long Island. I grew up on Long Island. I had older brothers that were in bands. My brother Dennis, specifically, who is like 14 years older than me, was in a really popular band that was signed to Parrot Records. And my next oldest brother, Doug, and I had a a kid band, a garage, a basement band in the neighborhood, and I played drums in that band because my first instrument was drums. We played Beatles covers, the Monkees, Rolling Stones, Mickey's Monkey, this stuff like stuff that was popular back then. But and we sucked. We were a pretty shitty band. In fact, we played a battle of the bands in my grade school. I think it was. I'm trying to think of what grade that must have been. It was probably fifth grade. Fifth grade. Played the battle of the bands. Right. There's 3 or 4 of us, and it was all done over the course of like 2. But I don't know what they used to call them back then, but you'd have a free period where you go outside and swing on the swings or play ball or whatever.
Recess.
Recess. That's right. And so 2 recess periods they had, and it was only 4 bands that entered, and so we played, and we thought we were pretty cool, and we had 2 neighborhood girls that dressed in mini skirts, and we had go-go dancers, while we played. So, and we were kids. So come on, it was like 5th grade. 4th grade or whatever the hell it was. And I went to a school that was about 60% black. So I was in the minority. White folks were in the minority, and so this band, these young black kids came up and they kicked our fucking ass, man. They were so good, playing like Wilson Pickett and James Brown, and everybody went nuts. And they were like, "Well, there you go." And so I played music in all through school, and when I went to college for like 1 semester, and I was working full time, and I left my home. I moved out of my parents' house when I was 16 because they decided to move to Florida, and I was like, I'm not moving to Florida. And I went to college early, so I was in college when I was 16, and then I was in a really good band, and I decided that that's what I wanted to do. So I basically dropped out of college, and I kept my job. I was working full time for a couple of years, and also playing like 3 or 4 nights a week with the band. And then that kind of was untenable because humans do need to sleep. And and then I moved to New Jersey in 1978. Was playing in a band there, and then I wound up running into a band called the Blue Sparks from Hell that included. The lead singer was a guy in a band that I used to follow. I used to sneak into bars to see, called St. Elmo's Fire. C.T. Tucker was the lead singer in the band, and he was absolutely out of his fucking mind, man. He was a genetic splice between Mick Jagger, Rudolph Nureyev, and Lenny Bruce. It's one of the funniest guys you ever meet, and at every show that I ever did with him, he opened up with like a 20-minute, totally improv comedy monologue that left people like gasping for air, and then we were a jump swing R&B band, and that's where I first met Andy Gessling. And I joined the band when I was 21, and he was already in the band. He was 17. So and then they talked me into Tucker. I met him at the bar. He was playing we played this festival. That's where I ran into him, and his band was playing in the bar after my band, and I was sitting there at the bar having a drink, and I'm looking at the band, and like this guy singing. I was like, "Oh my God, that's Tucker!" And then he came up to the bar afterwards, and I had played that afternoon. I had played that my bandmates talked me into getting in the fiddle contest at this festival, this bluegrass festival. We were a country rock band. I mean, I hate that. I really hate that shit. But they talked me into it, and I went. I won. But I had no idea. I'm not really a bluegrass fiddle player. I just play one on TV. And I'm sitting at the bar, and Tucker comes, "Hey, Timmy, how you doing?" And he remembered me and stuff because my brother George had played in St. Elmo's Fire for like 6 months, and he was like, "Man, we all saw you win that fiddle contest, man. You want to join the band?" And I'm like, yeah, that sounds good." So it's like, meanwhile, I'm already playing in the band, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we got a gig. We got this cool gig on Wednesday. Why don't you come down and play it?" I said, "Well, where is it?" He's like, "Well, we're playing at the Garden State Arts Center in New Jersey. We're opening for Seals and Crofts." So I show up with my little amplifier and my fiddle, and there I am on the stage in front of 3,000 or 4,000 people. The place was sold out and playing before Seals and Crofts, and that was it. Then I joined the band, and I played with Andy Gessling and the Blue Sparks for 20 years. And then he was in Kings in Disguise for 7 years, and then he and I started Rare Earth together.
What were the early years of touring with Railroad Earth in the early years of the band. What did that look like?
We were in a van and a trailer, and we had there were eight of us. We had Mike Partridge right from the beginning, and we had a girl that our name is Allie. Currently, we have a girl. It's kind of weird. The girl that's doing our merch now is Allie Tish, but our original girl, her name was also Allie. So there was 8 of us in a van, and we drove all over the country, and we would split 2 hotel rooms. We'd carry inflatable mattresses, and then would round robin through the beds. There'd be 2 beds and 2 people on the floor in each room, and that went on for nobody made it. We weren't making hardly any money, and I mean, like, I took a loan on my house to be able to afford to stay in the band, because at the time my wife was in graduate school, so she wasn't making any money, and I definitely wasn't making any money. What do you think is, like, what an average person, like, in the service industry maybe, or let's say you were working in Walmart or something, and you're working a full-time job, how much money would you think that person would make? Maybe $200-300 a week?
Yeah, I mean, you crunch the numbers. Walmart's pushing people part-time, but even if you were full-time and you're looking at like $10 an hour, you're looking at maybe $400 after taxes. You're looking at a few $100.
Yeah.
That's if you're full-time. Right.
So we were making half that, and, driving around the country and doing, we did the first couple of years, we were doing like 150 gigs a year or so, but, which pales in comparison to what Blue Sparks from Hell did. For 15 years, we did like 250 a year.
That's got to wear you down. That's got to be exhausting.
Well, the Blue Sparks, it was a different time. It was the 70s and 80s. I could rent a house. I rented a house with my girlfriend for, we were paying like $175 a month for a little, cottage. And, everything was way cheaper. Gas was like 90 cents or 85 cents a gallon. I mean, it was, literally everything was cheap. So everything was all, relative.
But even relative to the monetary aspect of it, it's got to be exhausting physically and emotionally, being away from home or a place that is stable and feels like home for that long.
Yeah. Well, it's, luckily the Blue Sparks were really kind of an extraordinary band in that we were really good. We had a really good following pretty much anywhere we played, and we could work 5 nights a week and we would sell every place out. Not giant places, but 200, 300, 400 seat places. And back then, drinking age was 18, so there was a lot more people going out to bars, and you could do a gig and make, what you would expect to make, and then drive literally like the next night you'd be 10 miles away and still be able to fill the place and drive another 10 miles. So, we never toured the whole country the entire time. And eventually we were doing like Maine to Florida and out the Gulf Coast to Austin and back. And that was our run that we would do, do that. And we'd be on the road, relatively constantly, but, we were young. I was, 20, I think I'm trying to remember now. I was like, I left the band. I guess the band broke up when I was like 30, 38 or 39 or something like that. And I joined when I was 20, and I turned 21.
So you were put a dent in it time-wise. I mean, that's a solid amount of time to be involved in a band like that.
Well, I've been in 2 bands for 20 years each, and then another band for 8 years. And those are the 3 bands that I've had, forget about all the, not don't forget about, but I mean, not including all of the, the various side projects I work in. I didn't really work in a lot of side projects back then, but I was always producing records I started producing records in 1986, and I never, once I started, that was it. I was like, just producing records.
They didn't notice you were there so very quiet. Just must have missed you that whole time. If it's alright with you, I'll just keep doing what I do, singing songs in the dark alone without you. I'll be very still, so just don't worry about me, babe. If it's alright, I would just decide to stay. If it's alright with you, I'll just keep doing what I do, singing songs and writing songs all about you. Oh, 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 not scared, I'm not tired, I'm not weak, and I'm not wired. But tonight I'll just be sitting here with you. If it's alright with you, I'll just keep doing what I do, singing songs and writing songs all about you. Oh, 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 oh. When I think of all the things I wish I could have said, all the things I've tried, but still I just can't say, how I'm trapped inside myself each and every day. And I'm not scared, I'm not tired, I'm not weak, and I'm not wired. Tonight it's just something to get through. It's alright, it's true, I'll just keep doing what I do, singing songs and writing songs without you. Oh, 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 oh,
Between the time when Railroad Earth started and as that was going along, how long was it before you felt like this was a tenable thing? This was something that could be sustainable, could earn money for you, and could be enjoyed by the masses or, a bunch of people?
Right away. That's the reason why I took a loan out on my house, because I believed in it. It was like I felt that was like an investment, and I was right. That loan's been paid off, and I'm actually going to be, my wife and I will be paying off my house in the next 2 years. So,
congratulations.
Yeah, it'll be great. It'll be like, hey man, I own this. Now what?
Yeah, now what? You got to get a habit or something. What were the early crowds looking like with Railroad Earth, and how long was it until you were selling out spaces?
It's definitely a process over the course of time. The funny thing is, you'll hear a lot of fans, like I can't tell you how many fans, because it's countless, will come up to me and will say, I saw you at the blah, blah, blah room when there was 3 people in the audience. Okay, let's just be clear. Railroad Earth has never played for 3 people. Ever. Never once have we played for 3 people. I would say maybe minimum 25, but never 3. So, but over and over again, you were 5 people in the audience. Like, yeah, okay, right, that's great. But did you like it? Good. Apparently, you're still here. So but yeah.
People like to have that connection, though, that intimate connection to a band, like almost as if they were involved in the discovery of this new thing.
I knew you before, right? That kind of thing. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, sure. I totally get. I totally get that. One of my favorite bands from back when I was, a teenager was this band from the East Coast called NRBQ, and great band. And they wound up signing to Columbia. But I saw them open for Hot Tuna at the Long Island, the Comac Arena out on Long Island, and I was probably 14, and it was like Hot Tuna's first tour. They didn't even have Papa John in the band yet. They still had they were touring the first album. They had the harmonica player whose name I cannot remember, but they were touring for the first record, and I was blown away by NRBQ. And then I would just go and see them wherever I could, and they wound up making, they had like 25 albums out, and they still exist. There's only one original member, but that kind of thing. I was like, yeah, I knew those guys when they were opening up, and I've seen them in bars and all kinds of But yeah, I know the thing. But then our audience like grew. Railroad has always kind of started here. We had like a pretty good jump start because our like 10th gig ever was on the main stage at the Telluride Bluegrass Festival, and we never went like this. We always just kind of went like that.
A gradual climb.
Yeah, and we wound up. I guess we would eventually in the first couple of years we were selling out 200 or 300 seat venues. A couple of years later it was 400 or 500. Just very gradually moving up to to the point. And we had help along the way, people that knew what they were doing to try to take us to the next level. And we had promoters that helped us do that. Like a really significant promoter is Don, from AEG,
Don Strasberg.
Don Strasberg. I mean, he was super helpful. I mean, he was like, "Oh, so what we're going to put you in this room here, and then next thing you know, you'll be over here," and then and he was right. It was everything he did and how he did it, and the people that we brought in to help us get there. Like we early on started working with the publicity people that work with String Cheese Incident, Madison House, and they were right at I believe they were right at a point where they were actually hitting their stride. And then they started helping us, and then I don't know what they're doing now. I haven't heard much about them. But at that particular time, the whole thing seemed to be like a machine that was rolling down the hill, and we got on for the ride for a little bit there. And, it was just, I guess what I'm illustrating is that we just were lucky enough and maybe had enough brains, so to speak, to, have people come on board at significant times to help us get to the next level. And everything happened slowly but steadily, and it was can't really think of a better way. I think there's a lot of times you can have like immediate meteoric success, and it doesn't necessarily always turn out that good.
Yeah, I've seen a lot of bands get crazy opportunities because the headliner enjoys that opening band's music or whatever the case is, and they get huge opportunities, and it doesn't necessarily translate to future glory.
Right. The whole thing's a crapshoot anyway, really, when you get right down to it.
Mm-hmm.
Now we're all, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, everybody's kind of in the tank here. There's nobody can really do much.
I saw that Live Nation had output that they were bringing down guarantees across the board and putting it on the bands. No surprise, I guess. And I guess everybody's calculating their risk, but I'm really curious to see how this shakes out as somebody who's been in the business for myself just about a decade. I can't imagine what this is going to look like, especially for the independents. Well,
see, that's the problem. The biggest problem is, and the way I describe it is, Major League Baseball has the minor leagues, and without the minor leagues, you can't develop talent to be your next major league star, or whatever. That minor league, it relates to our business, is the small venues. I'm not even going to say small bands because they're going to come and go. But without like the small, like 200 to 400 seat venues they're all they're having a really, really rough time now. But if they go away, there's going to be very difficult for them to come back, because a lot of those, especially in the larger metropolitan areas, those venues exist in an area that when they first came, especially the ones that have been there for, let's say, 15, 20 years, and there's a bunch of them. Trust me, I know I've played in dozens and dozens of them. And they've opened up in areas in cities that were on the edges and on the fringes, and they were not necessarily, they're in warehouse districts or on the edge of town, or in neighborhoods that were not, even in high-end cities like San Francisco. You have a place like Slim's, which was over on the far edge of the Mission, and that was when I went there first time back in the late 90s, I guess Yeah, what am I talking about? I was there, went out to San Francisco for a visit and hung there for a week. And I went with the Slims for like 92, 93. And I was like, this place is great. But the neighborhood was like, holy shit. This is a dangerous neighborhood. Not really great. Well, now that neighborhood is like, forget it. Good luck, man. You can't buy anything for under, you couldn't even buy like a 2-room nothing for under $1 million.
Right.
You know? And so Slims went under. That's the last place I thought would go under. It's owned by Boz Skaggs, for God's sake. And that's it. It's gone. Like a 500 seat venue, top of the line is gone. And it's not coming back because that property got, all those developers are sitting there, oh man, we can't wait for these things to go under and we'll just swoop in and build some condos. And that's what's going on. And they're not going to come back because the property's too expensive. I mean, they will in certain places, and you can always hope, but this is just bad news for small club owners and small to medium sized promoters, and that's where all the bands come up. The baby bands come up and build following and build fan base, and
I noticed in the last 5 years, companies like AEG, some of the larger companies, have started getting into the smaller venues and trying to bring those bands from their very entrance into playing live music all the way up and kind of adding those lower tiers to their mechanical flow.
Case in point, Don Strasberg, AEG, that's just like you're saying. That's exactly what happened with Rare Order.
Without those small clubs being independent, if those smaller clubs do belong to the bigger companies, I think that's detrimental to the bands too, because what you're going to see is smaller guarantees, less competition for those smaller shows, and it changes the whole dynamic of growth.
So it's just the flip side of that, or another perspective on that, is that I did not, having experienced having had that experience, right? That was not my experience. We experienced better production. We had better guarantees, and we were treated better. And then we were asked to come back. And there was thought put into what there seemed to be a plan and thought. He was the one that said, "You know what you got to do," and this may be a big part of it. "You know what you got to do? So you should just play the Front Range. Forget going to Colorado Springs and Durango and all that. Let's just make the people come to you." And that's kind of how we treated the Bay Area, because we used to play all over the place out there. And we'd go up and play Napa, or play, even north of the Bay Area, play down in Santa Cruz all the time. I mean, we always did a whole run, and then it was like, you know what? Just play San Francisco.
Yeah, because it spreads those crowds out, so then each individual show has less people as opposed to like a couple bangers.
Right, exactly. So, which is, that totally makes sense. But as a band, you want to play as many gigs as you can, because that represents some at least some kind of income to keep the ball rolling.
Yeah, and Don's a smart guy. He's not in that position because he doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah, no. So I made it the saying long time ago, man. It's a dog eat dog world, and you got to get used to the taste.
Hunter S. Thompson's quote about the music industry is perfect and resonates with me heavily.
Oh yeah.
Yourself in a time when you find everything is better than whatever's on the other side. All along you had known where to go, but no one else wanted to. All you heard him say was no. Spinning round like a wheel, and I feel mundane, commonplace, endless race, vacuum seal. When I get to the end, I start again, 9 to 5, assembly line, working just for quitting time. Coming from another time, in a place you thought you'd never find, but something always sounds the same. Correct me if I sound insane. Going home another way, I'll see you on another day. Far away from anywhere we've been before. Falling up and down, around and round, in and out, back and forth, until we hit the ground running. Whoa. coming from another time, in a place you thought you'd never find. Something always sounds the same. Correct me if I sound insane. Going home another way, I'll see you on another day. I'm far away from anywhere we've been before. I'm falling up and down, running around, in and out, back and forth, till we hit the ground running. In a time when you find everything is better than whatever's on the other side.
Tell me about what sparked your interest in the studio work you've done, because now I'm seeing it more prominently featured through your social media outlets, all of the work you're doing, and it seems like you've really, I mean, maybe you've been doing this for a while and I haven't noticed, but it seems like you've really dove, head first in the last 5 or 10 years.
Yeah, I produced on average about 3 records a year, and I have since 1986. I'm currently working on, I'm about to start work on hopefully, if it all works out, on my 72nd record that I've produced.
Wow.
72. I've always done this. People can use my name if they want to, and so sometimes it gets out there as far as like, here's a record produced by Tim Carbone, and sometimes it doesn't, because mostly what I'm doing is, my job is to make the best record that whatever artist I'm working with has ever made. It's like that's all I care about. It's like, this record is going to be the best record you've ever made in your career, and then like if you can top that, well, good luck.
Your reputation precedes you too. I mean, I talk to people who have worked with you, and everybody always has a story about how strict and focused you are, and it always comes with a bunch of respect behind it. That's consistent.
Yeah, it's mostly, my strictness is, I'm not necessarily a my way or the highway kind of producer, but I have my stock standard saying that if someone doesn't want to do what I think needs to be done, I basically just say, well, I thought you wanted the hit record, but apparently I was mistaken. So. And
why are you there if they're not going to take your instruction and guidance?
Oh yeah. I have a whole box full of sayings that I use. Like, for instance, well, my rate is $500 a day plus expenses if I produce a record. Now, if you want to produce a record, it's $1,000 a day plus expenses.
I like that.
Yeah, I rarely use that because most people. I got to tell you, man, there's a couple of records that I've done recently, starting with the Drunken Hearts last record, which I thought was their best record and brilliant. But I recently, even during the pandemic here, I did a couple of records out in Denver that will come out, sooner than later. Hopefully, probably not going to come out until first quarter next year because I think it's hard to even say whether it's the right time. I say yes, release a record because people need music and they can't go see it live. But it's not my call.
Mm-hmm.
But I just finished a record with the Sweet Lillies, and it is fabulous. Just even if I do say so myself, it's just everybody brought their A game, and they let me do what I do best, which is help them be the best that they can be. Mm-hmm. And then we're just finishing up little touches on mixing the 10th Mountain Division record, which is. They had so much material, and The other thing, the reason why people, may say I'm strict is because, like, I understand that people have a strict budget, and so, like, I'm mostly like a no bullshit kind of, okay, here's how much time it takes to do this, and here's how we do it in such a way that we create the best art we possibly can, but we keep it at or under budget. And that usually means here's what we're doing. We're going to start in the main room. We're going to go through all the songs and we're going to practice them together. And I'm going to stop you and I'm going to say, nope, do this here, cut up this, that, and then we go in and we do takes, and then we roll through and everything. I keep everything moving and keep the spirit bright and, keep everybody, create a good environment. That's my job. That's what I do. It's, there's many facets to the job. And that's why I love it. Cause it's endless and beautiful.
And I've never seen, for example, the Drunken Hearts or 10th Mountain Division. I've never seen them so serious as when they're engaged in a project with you. And I think that that's a essential thing to some of the content that's being created.
Yeah. And I get, I have this reputation now, which is not something that I, planned or wanted, but like I did a single with a band out of St. Louis. Their manager or someone that they were courting as a manager was like, yeah, we like it that you do so much work with baby bands and you make them better. And I thought about it, I was like, I never set out to do that, but hey, whatever, I work with bands a lot of times they're doing their first, second, or third record. And they may or may not have used a producer before.
I appreciate that you're available to those bands and that you have helped so many bands grow in such a positive way with your knowledge and your skill set and your accessibility to them. I mean, that's a really great thing.
Yeah, I'm proud of my work. I'm proud of what I do and I love what I do. So that's, I'm probably one of the luckiest people on the planet because I pretty much, I make a living, I say living, doing exactly what I want to do.
That's a beautiful thing. Regardless of what that money looks like, as long as that's sustainable, that's a beautiful thing.
Oh yeah. No, I'm telling you, I'm not, there's no bullshit, man. I am the luckiest motherfucker on this planet. That's a fact.
It's awesome to hear you say that. I'm glad that you recognize that.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening to Galaxy Tenants. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe, like, rate, and review wherever you listen to podcasts. For early access to episodes and exclusive content, check us out on Patreon. Also, if you'd like to communicate with us, send an email to galaxytenants@gmail.com or leave a voicemail on the Galaxy Tenants hotline at 303-550-2065.
You've reached the Galaxy Tenants hotline. Please leave a message.